Welcome everyone. Today finds me in Dayton, Ohio, and as you can see behind me, we are going to visit some of the Wright Brothers sites here in town. Here it says, home of Dayton Region's Walk of Fame. And walking famously here, we see Orville and Wilbur Wright. And here we have Paul Laurence Dunbar, who was a famous poet from Dayton. We see here an old typewriter. What's really interesting is Dunbar actually wrote poetry for a newspaper that the Wright brothers published. Let's go inside the Aviation Center and see what they have. Across the street you see the Wright Cycle Company. That is one of the shops that the Wright brothers owned here in Dayton.
Their family home was just half a block behind us. And they're serving the west side community here. This is a new kind of suburb that they're growing up here. Now they're not just a repair shop, they're not just bicycle sellers, they are a full service bike shop. They still do repairs, they sell accessories, which we've got some different things that people could purchase, and they also custom build bicycles for people. So this is a good business for them. And also that same year, 1896, they hear about the death of Otto Lilienthal, who was a German aviator, a glider pilot. And he had been the most successful aviator up to that point, but sadly, he crashed and died in a glider test.
How much of this is original and how much was kind of put in?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. So in 1897, they leave this shop location, they move to their next one. They're renters, so they can kind of bop around. And their next location is actually across the street from us. So if you see the two red brick buildings facing us, to the left there's an empty space where you can see some telephone poles and wires. That is where that fifth and final shop used to stand. So that shop was where they were doing all the physical work on the planes. They have their wind tunnel testing there, all that good stuff. Then by 1936, Henry Ford comes to town and purchases that building and their family home and moves them up to Michigan. This is with Orville's blessing. Orville and their mechanic Charlie Taylor helped set up that bike shop, how it looked up in Greenfield Village up in Michigan. So here, this building, after they leave in 97, it becomes a residential building for more than 7 decades. By the 1980s, it is an apartment building, one apartment on each floor. It's really quite run down, derelict, an eyesore. The city wants to tear it down. It's scheduled for demolition, but then it was saved a few weeks before its demo date. We used that fifth shop at the Henry Ford to kind of base our reimagining off of. So showroom areas up front, workshop areas towards the back, and it looks a little similar to what they have up there.
The Wright brothers used bicycle parts.
Tons of them. They used what they had, and they used what they knew. So they had oversized hubs, they had sprockets, they had chains, spoke wire for a lot of stuff, and then even metal tubing for the kind of structural support for the propeller shafts.
Well, one of their big things was a wing warping, wasn't it?
Yes. So it's that roll that allows them to turn more effectively, that banking kind of.
It's a full-scale replica of Wright's 1902 glider. Now, their first trip to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, occurred in 1900. They returned again a year later. But the brothers were becoming very discouraged because the machine was not performing the way they thought it should. Matter of fact, on the way back from Kitty Hawk in 1901, Wilbur comments that man will not fly for another 1,000 years.
So look at this. We have a history of flight, including lighter than air flight. And that is von Zeppelin. And they have a lot of inventions of the time here. Motion pictures, telephone, telegraph, telewoman. No, actually that's Madame Curie. And there is Thomas Edison. And I have heard that they had that helicopter toy when they lived in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I don't see that here, but I've heard about it. Oh, it does, right there, when the Wrights were living in Cedar Rapids. And I suppose this is a representation of what the grocery store might have looked like. That's Frank Hale, who operated the grocery store in 1900. And they say this is what it would have looked like. Ma'am? Excuse me, ma'am. I'd like to get to the chocolates, please. Ma'am? She's got such a kind face. And of course, who wouldn't want a good nickel cigar? Of course, they weren't twins, but it says they were as inseparable as twins. And here are some of their printing supplies. That is called a California job case, and it's where they would keep all of that movable type. Here we see some early diagrams, and there is the wing warping that they were so well known for. That is how they actually controlled their plane. And it says here that one of the ways they controlled it is with a hip cradle. And you can put your hand in there and move that back and forth. And look what's happening. It's causing that to move back and forth. What's actually happening is warping the wing. And that's what allowed them to control their flight. And that was a big discovery. Man won't fly for 1,000 years. And apparently that's why. It looks like they had a bit of a crash. And here's where we can control roll, pitch, and yaw. So roll is rolling the plane. Pitch, we're guiding it up and down. And yaw. In order to fly, you need a light engine. So apparently a light engine was a Wright engine in more ways than one. And of course they need a propeller too. So let's make that propeller turn. Wow, that's a big propeller. And this is an actual piece of the engine from the 1903 Wright Flyer. And in December of 1903, it finally happened in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. They flew almost the length of 3 football fields. And there's an actual fabric swatch from the 1903 Wright Flyer, the very first airplane. It says this is a bench used on the rear porch of their family home. And as we look out the window, there it is. There's their bicycle shop. That's where we just were. And here's the Wright Brothers' first career as printers. Here's a little letterpress. I do know how to operate one of those, by the way. So they had a fight with their partner. That one customer paid for a job with popcorn, and the partner thought they should eat it, and Orville apparently thought that they should invest it and sell it. And they broke up over it. And there's the Wright Brothers printers. And look at that. There's a newspaper printed by the Wright Brothers. And it says here that he actually did his own woodcut illustrations, meaning he would carve the illustration out of that wooden block, and that's what they would put on the printing press and print as an illustration. There is Mr. Hale from Hale's grocery store. They opened their printing business on the second floor of that grocery store. And there's a bicycle shop they ran in 97 through 08. And this is a map of different places where the Wright brothers had businesses in Dayton. So these guys were real go-getters. Even if they hadn't invented the airplane, they would have been successful through any number of things. Printing, bicycles, who knows? And once again, we have some job cases. And these are all real and legitimate. And they told me downstairs that this is actual Wright Brothers equipment that's on loan. I will have to look at that window from outside. Now I don't know if any of this is original. I would imagine it's just period. And there's a larger platen press. And it says here's a Wright Brothers press. Of course, we can't see it. It's covered up. That is kind of crazy that they have a museum and then cover something up. Oh well. There's a flatbed cutter. And here is the Wright family album. Lots of pictures of the Wright brothers. And there's Orville and his dog Scorpio. No, Scipio. So it says that was a home in Oakwood, which is south of Dayton. Wilbur died before it was completed, but Orville lived there for a long time. 1914 to 1948. There's Orville right there with a bunch of friends. This guy looks like the ladies' man, huh? Look at all those women around him. I guess it didn't happen yet. That picture was taken in 1899. If only they knew they were flirting with the wrong man. And there is Wilbur, and there's Orville. No mustache. And there's the Wright bomber. It was a balsa wood toy airplane that kids could get by saving cereal box tops. And let's go take a look at the parachutes. We'll take a quick look through this. Oh, look at that. An ejection seat. So I'm glad I'm just sitting in the ejection seat and not sailing through the air in it. Let's go. And here it talks about parts of a parachute. Oh my, this just started. I don't know why or how. It must have sensed me. Feel the force. Apparently you can pull a ripcord. Oh, look what happens. I get it. This is so you can feel the pressure of the wind in a parachute. Almost feels like an exercise machine. Here are all the different parts of a parachute. On TV, they just make it look like it's a backpack. The idea of the parachute is an old one. Look at him jumping from a hot air balloon. And here we can touch the silk parachute. I don't want to trust this parachute. That has a hole in it. Silk instead of nylon. And you can feel the difference. Okay, so here is the outside of the building that we were at. And I want to see if I can get a picture of that Wright Brothers window. There's the grocery store. And there it is. And there is the grocery store we were in. I'm back in my hotel room, and besides getting some postcards from my Patreon sponsors, I got this. It is the mini Wright flyer. It looks pretty cool, and maybe I'll put this together in a future video. Now I do have a little bit of trivia for you, because in a previous video I showed Harry Houdini in 1916 here in Dayton, Ohio, dangling from his feet from an office building. It was actually the Dayton Daily News building. And there is another connection between Harry Houdini and the Wright Brothers, besides the fact that they're both in Dayton. And this is an unusual one. A lot of people don't know this. Harry Houdini the magician, that Harry Houdini, was the first man to fly an airplane on the continent of Australia. I believe it happened in 1909, and he never flew a plane again. I mean, as a pilot or a passenger. So that's a pretty interesting bit of trivia. Thanks for joining me. Since you made it to the end of the video, you must have liked something, so you can be the star of this channel by subscribing now. Please like and share the videos and click that bell icon up above so you know when I post new videos. Thanks for watching, everybody.